Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first CPD session under E-Tendering, a sustainable value addition to procurement process organized by the Alumni Association of College of Quantity Surveying. On behalf of AACQS, we are warmly and sincerely welcome you all of you are here. To kickstart this evening session, let me introduce the speaker of today's event. He is none other than Engineer Priyanka Nuwan Karunarathna. Engineer Priyanka Nuwan Karunarathna graduated as a civil engineer from University of Moratuwa, Sri Lanka, and obtained his master's from University of Reading, UK, in the field of quantity surveying. He is a chartered quantity surveyor and a qualified expert witness, having nearly 2 decades of experience as a civil engineer and a contract administrator. Mr. Karunarathna is currently working as a senior quantity surveyor in Sultanate of Oman. He innovated the Mindful Contract Administrator, a YouTube channel which cultivates mindfulness amongst the practicing contract administrators across the globe. Mr. Karunarathna was the past president of Sri Lankan Quantity Surveyors Fraternity in Sultanate of Oman and currently chairman of Sri Lankan School of Muscat. He has been an RICS APC assessor, mentor, counselor, and an eminent CPD presenter. On behalf of AACQS, I would like to warmly welcome you today, Engineer Priyanka Nuwan Karunarathna. Before starting the session, I would like to remind you a few things. If you have any question to raise from the lecture, you can put forward into the chat box, and during the Q&A session, Engineer Priyanka will address them all. And if you are wishing to obtain a certificate for today's CPD, please fill the Google form which is in the chat box, complete it and submit before ending the session. Okay, then without wasting time, I would like to hand over the event to Engineer Priyanka Karunarathna to continue the session. Engineer Priyanka, over to you.
Thank you, Piyumi. In fact, it has indeed been a pleasure to be back with another session for my dearly beloved Alumni Association of College of Quantity Surveying, as well as all the stakeholders here. And I would like to thank Mr. Rex, the president, and Ms. Nadika, the general secretary, and of course, Ms. Piyumi, who has invited me for this particular session today. I hope all of you can hear me well, and you can see the slide presentation as well. Am I right, Piyumi?
Yes, Engineer Priyanka, yes.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, right. Of course, e-tendering, a sustainable value addition to procurement process. We all know what procurement is, right? And we all know what tendering is, and what is e-tendering? Is it something very complicated, or is it something to do with a lot of knowledge exploration? In fact, the good news is it is not. It is something very simple, which is something very, very robust. We can organize the tendering process with this particular tool in a very effective manner, right? So without much of a time, I would like to introduce about today's session, right? As you are aware about this e-tendering session, it is going to be in 3 sessions. So if you are a person who is longing to get your CPD hours recorded, this can be considered as official 1.5 hour session, right? And then after that, we are going to have session 2 and session 3. It might probably be 2-hour sessions. So altogether, you may be able to acquire about 5.5 hours of CPDs, which is official formal CPD. So it will help you in fulfilling your requirements, which is being asked by these professional organizations such as Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, Australian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, and of course, Sri Lankan Quantity Surveyors, the Institute of Sri Lankan Quantity Surveyors as well. right? So today's session is actually threefold. As you can see here, first we are going to talk about the revamping of the paperless tendering process within the procurement cycle. As you are aware that we are going to talk about, we know very well about the traditional tendering, traditional procurement cycle, but today we are going to talk about something new. Maybe it is familiar to some of you, uh, not familiar to some of us, maybe, or something like that. Anyway, we are going to touch the areas of foundation related to the e-tendering process. And then we will move on to what is known as the compatibility of the e-tendering process with the technological advancements. As you are aware, the technology is very advanced these days. Even with the advent of building information modeling, we are now talking about 6 dimension, right? We are talking about scaling existing buildings in order to uh, create the soft copies of their 3D models. So we are going into that extent as well. In fact, in UK, the BIM modeling is essential. So electronic transmission is not a new thing now. It has become bread and butter of a quantity survey. And it has elevated your value as well to become a person who is competing with others to showcase your knowledge area. So we need to understand the compatibility of e-tendering process with the technological advancement. Last, I'm going to talk about a case study which is going to be equipped with some of the problems which has been faced by a lot of people who have already gone through this particular process. Okay, so it is going to be a novel experience to most of us as well. So let us start with that. Now, before starting the session, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea about what I'm going to talk about today. Imagine that we all are people in the same organization, right? Okay, so if we all are in the people in the same organization, if we are equipped with a car, or if we are equipped with a vehicle of our own, we will go to work by using our vehicle, isn't it? So it is going to be your daily routine. But if in case one of us wanted to join with me, let's say some of you wanted to have a carpool and then reach your destination. Then what you normally do is you save money, isn't it? You cut your petrol cost by half. So e-tendering is something like, rather than producing multiple documents, rather than producing a lot of documents in hard copies, we are going to have one single platform. So we are going to save a lot of things. We are going to save trees. But it is not only that. There is something beyond that which you may be able to understand in e-tendering, right? Now, the resources being used. So we are going to expand the horizons of our knowledge pertaining to e-tendering with a strong piece of information, which is known as the RICS practice standards, which was issued in UK. Whenever you see RICS practice standards, which is UK, that means it talks about the UK standards. It talks about the English law as well, but there are a lot of things that we can take into the global context. So that we need to keep within our mind. That is what you are seeing on your left-hand side. And in the middle, there is a very vital, a valid document, a very valuable document which was issued by RICS, which is called as lessons learned. We all forget about the lessons what we learn in our journey, in our life, in our professional lives, and we repeat the same mistake again and again and again. Imagine that when you are going in your car into your workplace, right? You come across a hump every day, but you are on the phone, you are texting someone. Your mind is somewhere else. Your mind is not connected with what you're doing. Therefore, you always have that particular impact in that particular hump. So we need to avoid that particular hump, knowing full well that there is hump in advance. So that is about mindfully administrating this e-tendering process. This is what we are going to strengthen with our knowledge and experience by looking into one of the case studies towards the end of this today's particular session. The one which you are seeing on your right hand side, top right hand corner, is what is known as etenders.lk. That is a website which is being used in Sri Lanka. This morning when I visited this particular website, there were 231,000 odd tenders which is being published, right? And what you're seeing down is what we are using in Oman. In the Middle Eastern countries, we have our own e-tendering platforms as well. So towards the next sessions, we will be talking about a model developed by the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors for the e-tendering as well. So it is contained within this document. You will be able to have access to these three resources. So my kind request, if you attend the first session, in order to get the full benefit of what I'm going to tell you today, please do attend the next two sessions as well. So it will definitely elevate your ability to comprehend what we are going to discuss today. Right. Having said that, I'm going to move into what exactly is meant by e-tendering. As I have told you, it is not something complicated. Actually, I had an opportunity to get an interview from a PhD candidate last week, and she asked a very valid question. She asked, if the documents, the tender documents or the contract documents, the forms of contracts are written in a very robust way, why do we have disputes? Very simple, yet to the point question. She nailed it. That's what I have to tell you, right? So with all these complications in this particular tendering process, why aren't we using something which is very simple, which is very robust, and which does not have duplication? It is beyond sending an email. It is beyond having a soft copy. There is something else into that one. What we are going to learn is that particular flavor, which is known as e-tendering. As you can see on your right-hand side, right, the definition of e-tendering is mentioned as the electronic issuing and receipt of tender documentation. Now imagine in your normal day-to-day life, what you are normally doing in this particular session, right? In this particular traditional tendering process, what are the activities that you are doing? Take a piece of paper and write them down all, right? You may be seeing a lot of duplications. You may be seeing a lot of things that you are doing unnecessarily in order to capture the data, in order to store the data, in order to comprehend the data, and a lot of duplicates, triplicates are happening, right? So electronic issuing and receipt of any tender documentation in electronic format eliminates all these jargons. It is something to do with the lean management of the procurement process. As you are aware, if you take the procurement as a very whole process, tendering is part of it, isn't it? We do tendering in different stages of a particular procurement process. In acquiring, in procuring a consultant quantity surveyor, or in procuring a consulting engineer, we do a tendering process. And then upon appointment of that particular person, once again, when you're coming back to the appointment of a contractor, you are doing the tendering process. So likewise, we are doing a lot of tendering in this particular procurement process, right? So e-tendering adds a flavor of simplicity, adds a flavor of robustness, and cut the excess, cut the waste. So this is what is meant by the e-tendering definition. You might have seen the first slide which I have shown to you. It is something with some div, isn't it? Okay, you know that you might have drunk that particular cool thing which is called div, right? So it is like a very simple rain which is falling out of a clear sky, which we normally known as serene. We used to pronounce this particular word as serene. So I added an S to this word serenes, which exactly describes the 7 spheres of e-tendering, the 7 habits of e-tendering. the 7 cultures of e-tendering, which you need to acquire, which you need to add to your professional life. Number 1 is single source. Needless to say, what is meant by single source? We all know when you appoint, it is very easy when you are having a quantity surveying background, and whatever the language which I am talking is easily being comprehended by you, because we all talk in the same language. It is not like I'm talking to a doctor, bunch of doctors, and they are talking about something totally different from what I know. So you all know exactly what is meant by a design and build type of contract. We call the contractor has got a single source of responsibility, isn't it? That is the design responsibility as well as the workmanship responsibility. So likewise, e-tendering gives the flavor of a single source. It is a one-click approach to all information, right? And then it talks about equality. You know that there are many contractors, many tenderers in Sri Lanka. Also, there are different tiers. Now, here in Oman, what we are using is we call a particular grade of a contractor as excellent grade of a contractor. And then it comes down to first grade, second grade, up to fourth grade. So there are different stakeholders with different capacities, different abilities, but the equality has been cultivated with the advent of the e-tendering process. Then we move on to what is called as the reduced tender administration. You cut down a lot of things which you are doing in your normal traditional tendering process, right? And there is something called electronic audit trail. Electronic audit trail is of profound interest to the people who are doing auditing, because having served as a government servant in Sultanate of Oman for a couple of years, we had been audited internally, we had been audited externally by the state auditors as well. So whenever they are doing the auditing part, from a quantity surveyor's perspective, imagine that you can produce all the information within a single click, how much of a time that you are going to save. So electronic audit trail allows you to do less mistakes, allows you to have a better auditing process within your professional life, right? And then the instant access. No matter whether you are in Alaska, no matter whether you are in Nigeria, no matter whether you are in a plane where the internet is allowed, you can access. You don't have to carry those files within the quantity surveyor's office, the estimation office, to search for information. So that is a very, very useful tool. Then you have got negating duplication, right? It is not just what you are thinking as duplication. It is something, there is something beyond that one. There's something sixth sense. Once you see the e-tendering portal, because since when I had a discussion with the panel members of the Alumni Association, what they said was that majority of my audience today is comprising of Sri Lankans. If there are any non-Sri Lankans also, there are ways and means that you can handle. That is why I'm using 2 platforms. One is which is coming from Oman, right? We call this SNAD platform for e-tendering, and then the tenders.lk, that particular website is going to be perused. That website is going to be studied to the rock bottom, so that you know, you are fully conversant with what e-tendering process is all about, right? And then a secure system. So as you can see, the e-tendering system, sometimes you might be thinking, somebody can access your email. Yes, of course. Now, if you are using your social media, you know that if somebody logged into your system by using another device, you can set certain parameters so that to avoid that sort of a malpractice, right? E-tendering allows you a very secure system, even though you feel that when you do the pricing and then you upload, somebody may all of a sudden steal your information, but it is not. So that is one of the things that I have to tell you. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, in future, there won't be any task for the quantity surveyors which is known as arithmetic errors, okay? Because you know, I am sure all of you, most of you may have done your arithmetic error exercise in a tender which has been submitted by using a lengthy Excel sheet. Now I'm talking in between the electronic formats that you are using. It's not just the hard copies you are using, because you are a little bit advanced, right? I call myself as the second generation of quantity surveyors in Oman, right? First generation of quantity surveyors in Oman didn't have all these facilities, but they did wonders, right? They were they were they were immensely phenomenal in doing their quantity surveying activities. But now you are in an era, instead of using these paper-based documents, you use electronic systems. So what is beyond that? This is what you need to think. Using electronic systems is not in e-tendering. Once again, there is something beyond that. You need to add that layer into your life. You might be using an Excel sheet in order to do a arithmetic calculation. With the advent of e-tendering system, when the tenderers insert their rates into the e-tendering system, there is no way that the tenderer can do an arithmetic mistake unless there is a software error. Okay, so that is also a good thing which we achieve by saving a lot of time, because when you are giving a quotation for tender evaluation, right, you are putting that uh, arithmetic correction thing also into your resource sheet, isn't it? Now it has been eliminated, the things became faster, the clients are happy, and then you are getting more jobs, right? There is another way of thinking about this particular serene. Okay, the first thing is about single source tenders, right? So single source tenders, right? Tenderers, suppose assume that you are the CEO of the company, right? What you normally do is you look at the morning paper, isn't it, for tenders, right? Or you appoint someone to look at the morning papers in tenders. So once he is looking at the morning paper, his or her mind may go astray somewhere else, and then her might have missed one of a very vital tender that you may have to quote. But with a single source alert system, right? You can have your alerts to your mobile phone. You can have alerts to your email, right? It is a very less chance that you will be missing a very important notification pertaining to a tender which has been recently published with this, which is very much useful to you. And then you know about the 4 volumes of a tender document, isn't it? Prime document, drawing, specification, and bills of quantities. Now, you know that with the advent of the FIDIC 2017 version, the definitions have been redefined, right? The word schedules, if you see the word schedules in the FIDIC Red Book 1999 version, as opposed to 2017 version, there's a change. It says schedules are the documents which is prepared by the employer and completed by the contractor. Previously, that particular wording, prepared by the employer, is not there. Now, e-tendering strengthens these habits. E-tendering strengthens these sort of things. That means, apart from what has been published, there is no way that you can alter a document. Remember, in your old traditional tender procurement system, what you normally used to do is, I still remember that particular line that the tenderers have been using. It says the employers have been using. No alteration to the descriptions in the BOQ will be entertained, right? If there is any sort of a alteration, your tender is subjected to a rejection, which will never happen, right? Even though the qualifications are being put forth within a tender document, you say that a tender document should be qualification free, right? But when the tenderer submits that with the qualification, you ask the tenderer to take them down, or you are going to price for those qualifications. So in a manual system, it is not what exactly that you mean within the tender document, when it comes to the actual scenario. But with the advent of e-tendering, There is no room for you to put the qualifications. There is no room for you to alter the content of the bill of quantities, right? You know that, for example, if the tenderer doesn't like a particular thickness of a marble, so he sneaks out and change that particular thickness, right? And then you put a price. Then he tries to qualify. If in case that particular preamble which is inserted within the tender inquiry is not available, the tenderer may come and argue and say, you never asked, Mr. Employer, for us to change. You never told that you cannot change the order, you cannot alter the tender documents, right? But here it is more secure that you are not able to even touch the descriptions of the BOQ in the e-tendering system, not even the quantities in the e-tendering system. So it is frozen, right? Because once again, I'm coming back to the electronic versions that you are using, right? When you are using an electronic Excel sheet, you know that some cells can be locked, but there are IT geniuses who can easily unlock that one and change it and then again lock back. I'll give you a very classic example. You know about this plagiarism, right? Plagiarism is a very dirty word for all of us, because when we were doing our thesis, when we are doing our masters, it deprives our ability to copy from somewhere and put it in our own thesis, because people will touch. Okay. So one of the lecturers of University of Central Lancashire told me, Priyanka, it is not that difficult for you to cheat the plagiarism software. Only thing that you can do is put a simple comma and put it in white within that particular text. I'm not teaching you something to cheat, okay? It is just how well the advanced technologies can be used to misguide the so-called softwares, the so-called electronic methods that you are using. E-tendering is eliminating that. So this is where we stand, okay? So we are not simply comparing the traditional system with an electronic system because you have passed that age. That age has now been closed. Now you are in the electronic system. Now, how you improve this further? This is what we need to do, right? This is what is all about this e-tendering sessions. And then governing laws of the tendering process, right? You know, whenever e-tendering process is been there, right? Some governments, they used to put the tender law modifications, whatever the additional legislation that they introduced into the market, they used to publish that in the e-tendering system. So you don't have to look around. Oh, there was a royal decree issued for the banning of polythene in 2020, the royal decree 23 in 2020 in Oman. They banned the single-use plastics. Okay, so it was published in newspapers. But for a tenderer who is doing a manual tender, he might not have been aware of this particular thing. But e-tendering deprives that mistake. You have to put a particular checklist. You have to put a tick. If you were to jump that particular hurdle, it is like a person who is running 110 meters hurdles. Okay. If you miss one hurdle, you won't be able to reach the destination. E-tendering gives you those checkpoints. That is very important. Then regarding the addenda, you know, it is a very tedious task for the tenderer to put all the addenda into the system, right? There may be BOQ page reference problems. There are many problems that you are having. But in the e-tendering format, there is only one single place in order for you to price as a tenderer. There is one single place which will be corrected with the subsequent uploading of information. Otherwise, e-tendering will not allow you to do duplication. So these are very important, very tangible things that you have to learn regarding the e-tendering process. Then, yesterday and day before, I just perused the e-tendering website in Sri Lanka. And to my utter pleasant surprise, there were 231,559 published tenders. Okay. So in Oman, we have published only 10,000 tenders in our e-tendering website. So you have got a lot of resources, immense amount of resources in order for you to learn about e-tendering. Then you might be worrying, how am I supposed to log into this particular system? How am I supposed to get information out of this particular system? It is not that difficult, right? When you log into that, when you enter as a general public, any internet user can see this particular screen. Let me have some sip of water. Right. Any person in the general public can access this particular screen, which is known as etenders.lk. Okay. So on your right hand side, you are having two flashing screens. One says join e-tenders. Second one says how it works. These are two flashing screens, right? It is like an LED light, which is giving two different colors, you know, right? When you see this particular join e-tender screen, what you need to do is when you just click that particular one, right? You will get a screen like this, right? So I entered the details there. You have to use that. You can ask your bosses. If you are an owner, you are a sole proprietor, you can easily enter this one. And then what you're seeing on your right hand side, you will be getting an email. Dear Mr. So-and-so, we have received your email, right? The leaders of online tendering in Sri Lanka, and we will contact you shortly. So it is just a seconds that you have to do. Rather than going through all these newspaper reading, looking at the paper publishments and all these things, you just log into that one, right? And then the next flashing screen, which will show you how it works, right? It is very simply mentioned within that particular website. You need to enter your details as an organization. Then you need to choose the respective tender sector or subsector that you are interested in. Now you can see if you have a very closer look at that one, that the fourth partner in this particular website is Sir John Kotalawala Academy, I think, right? So I'm sure that there are viewers from Sir John Kotalawala Academy who has been a partner in this one. Like that, the State Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Corporation, we call it SPC, I think, right? National Water Supply and Drainage Board and Milco are partners of this particular process. So then when you go into this particular screen, you may see a very user-friendly method of how you are going to address all these issues, right? You need to enter your details and then you need to choose the respective tender sectors. For example, if you are a consultant quantity surveyor or a consulting engineer, you can choose that one. Then you can select your preferred payment plan and method. It's very, it's not that expensive. I'll tell you when it comes to the cost of that part. And then it talks about some important facts. You can have a secure, easy to use control panel for members. So if you are a member, it is like a dashboard in your car. Okay, then I'll come into that one, then you will understand. So likewise, there are many advantages of the e-tendering system which has been stipulated and showcased within this particular website. Okay, am I going too fast or am I going too slow? I hope Pumi can enlighten me about that.
No, Engineer Priyanka, you can continue. It's okay. Everybody can understand.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. And the other thing is my pace of delivery, are there any interruptions when I'm telling this thing? Because when I'm coming to what do you call physical platform, there is no way that I can ask from you whether my voice is interrupting or something like that. How about that? Is it going smoothly?
No issue, Mr. Priyanka.
Excellent, excellent, right. Okay, then it goes, you might have seen that there were certain buttons you can see on this one. I'm just giving you a little bit of an insight about that because this is not the core of today's session. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an insight. You might have seen within this particular screen, you can try it for yourself. It says how it works, how the e-tendering system in Sri Lanka works, Then it says what you get, what you are getting in the e-tendering system in Sri Lanka, and what is it costs, right? It talks about the couple of things that you need to be knowing, right? Then what you get, it says you are getting daily email alerts of the tenders specific to you. Email is a part and parcel of everyone's life. When you go to work, the first few minutes that you are spending in your office is checking your emails, isn't it? When you're having a cup of coffee or something like that, having a chat with your colleagues about what has happened yesterday, right? And your plans about today, one of the prime objectives of you is to check your emails, right? So if you don't check your emails, that means you are not a proper contract administrator. You are a bad contract administrator. If you want to be mindful contract administrator, you should be checking your emails early in the morning every day, right? And then username and password to log into the website. Well, there are certain stories behind that one. In my case study, which I have chosen today, I will be explaining you one glitch which has been encountered by a particular uh, tenderer related to this username and password login. It is like, you know, that if you're the CEO of the company, right, sometimes you may not be having the time to log into the website. So it is better that you delegate your task. If you do not delegate and if you want to hold it to yourself, sometimes you may be in a little bit of a trouble with your busy life. You may be able to, you might be losing track on this one. Then a member control panel is there. It is something like the dashboard that you are seeing on your vehicle, which I will be explaining you. Then ability to search for tenders, download tender notices. With a single click, you can do that one. So you don't have to search for anything. Cut from the papers, all these things are eliminated. Then ability to download tender documents online when provided by issuing authority or the government. In Oman, there is an organization called Petroleum Development of Oman. They have got something called PDO extranet. It is not, in fact, exactly the e-tendering, but their extranet allows the tender documentation to be downloaded by using a single click. Rather than having to go there and then collect the tender documents, you can do that one. So it is something very similar to this, right? Advanced searching. You can search about what are the other opportunities which may be available to you. You don't have to confine to your sphere of work scope. You might be seeing something interesting. Now, for example, all of a sudden, let's say the e-tendering system has introduced a specific subcategory called BIM implementation. Now, you are a contractor, you recently recruited a BIM specialist. Now you can enter into that particular area, right? You can test the water by using that one. So that is also there. And then unlimited customer support. I don't know the case in Sri Lanka, but in Oman, it is a 24 hours, 24/7. Whenever we send an email as a stakeholder of the tendering system, they are here to support you, right? And then how it works, right? It is once again the same screen, which I don't want to duplicate that part. I spoke about the security, the storing the tenders of interest of your favorite list. It is like, you know, that when you are having a YouTube channel, right? You have your favorites, isn't it, right? You don't have to again search for that one. You put it as favorites, right? Let's say that you wanted to watch Voice Sri Lanka, right? A particular singer is of very much importance to you. So you wanted to put him or her in your favorites list. So then you can easily acquire that one. Then amend and update your profile at any time. That is a very common thing. Like, you know, that when you're using a LinkedIn profile, you can have updations very quickly like that, right? And then search your entire tender database. Now, this is an area which our previous people, our predecessors did not have the opportunity of. You can even see the tenders which has been submitted by the others. I'm not saying the rates and all these things, but the submitted bid price. Then you can understand where you went wrong. why you were not selected. You can benchmark what has happened, right? So those facilities, even for the general public, that facility is there. So what you cultivate by using this particular information, some may think it is unnecessary, but it is not. To cultivate transparency, it is one of the strong pillars of becoming a chartered quantity surveyor. You should practice your ethics, professional ethics. Suppose that you select a particular tenderer in an open tender in an unfavorable way. You have given any fair, not given any fairness to them. In a country like UK, they take it very seriously. The contractors sued it, right? I'm sure that in Sri Lanka also the same. We have got a lot of professionals there, right? If you felt something fishy, right? If you see that you have participated in an open tender where your price is the lowest, you should be able to ask, why wasn't I selected, right? That is why some of the employers, when they put, I'm not a contractor's man or an employer's man, I'm just telling you what I observed, what are the things that we have captured. Sometimes within the tenders, that is why there is a particular wording that we are using. It says the employer has the authority to select the lowest or any other tenderer. So they give that sort of a sense to the contractor, the tenderer. We are not obliged to choose the lowest tenderer. Yes, there are certain parameters. You might have heard about that. The most economically advantageous tender, we call it meat concept, right? The most economically advantageous tender concept does not allow you to choose the lowest tender, isn't it? And the concept called ALT, that is the abnormally low tender. You know full well that you cannot, that particular tenderer cannot do this particular tender for the price that he has. So our case study will cover that one as well. So like that, it is there. So what does it cost? It will cost you only 2,500 Sri Lankan rupees. If there are viewers from Oman, it is 5 riyals in Omani riyals per month. So this sort of an investment is not wasted. I'm not promoting this particular website or something. I am promoting the concept. I am promoting this particular phenomena, which is definitely adding value to your organization. So there's one line, it says, to save your time, to save you time and effort to ensure you never miss an opportunity. So they came up with a preamble, it's very nice preamble. It gives you a signal, oh, this is worthy, isn't it, right? E-Tenders LK represents excellent value of 30,000 rupees per year for a maximum of 3 categories, right? So this is how the cost of this particular e-tendering thing works. Then we are moving on to what is known as the SURF approach. You know that it has been my habit to abbreviate the like with like things, the like what I have shown you, the serene, right? The serenes is actually the first 7 letters of these particular facts, which is something like a dew, right? It's a very small rain which is coming out of the clear sky, right? So likewise, the surf is another concept which is revolving around the E-Tenderi, right? What you are seeing on your background is Arugambi, which is one of the remarkable, phenomenal tourist destination in Sri Lanka. So it captured my eye to select this particular word, the surf, right? It is simply talking about simplified tendering process, unified platform for data. Okay, so we were talking about that one, isn't it? And then the reduced tendering costs. Yes, you do know about that. And then the fairer tender evaluation, right? So this is the SURF approach that we are normally using. So this particular slide basically talks about the 2 websites that we are using, e-tendering in Oman and Sri Lanka. Mostly, most of the features are common, quite common, right? It talks about how many tenders are live, how many tenders have been submitted, how many have been awarded, and how many have been cancelled. And the Sri Lankan version also is having a lot of know-how, a lot of useful information like the same, right? I was talking about in this serene concept, the instant access, right? This particular instant access is something like your dashboard in your car. You can see about 10 to 15 odd uh, uh, lines, 10 to 15 odd figures on your dashboard, what you're seeing on your left hand side, right? Uh, Normally, when you start your vehicle, you don't get any of these alerts, isn't it? Right? Very hardly you are getting sometimes the battery, when the battery is weak, it is getting there. And if your fuel is not being properly filled, you will get that particular message as well. So an indication of this particular figure that you're seeing on your right hand side is that your car's coolant is overheating, right? Uh, you need to quickly pull over and let your car cool down, or the heat can destroy your car's engine. So you should pay attention. You should be mindful about what is surrounding you. Now, in the tenders also, right? E-tendering system, when you enter into the system, they give you certain alarms. When you check your email every day, sometimes they will publish an addenda. Okay. Sometimes they will publish a clarification. Sometimes after you submit, okay, there is a role called the tender evaluator role. Now, unlike the traditional system, there are there are specified roles in the e-tendering system, which is called as tender opener, tender evaluator, and tender approver. Those are the three different categories of personnel who have been allocated for this particular work task to be done, right? So likewise, you may be getting certain alerts, but there may be certain things you may have not noticed as well, right? Like when you start your vehicle, this particular indication of your engine's color, sometimes it comes in blue. I don't know whether you have observed that. It comes in blue when the engine's heat is lesser than the required performance heat. Then you have to wait a little while until the engine gets that particular heat. I'm not a car specialist, but this is what I have observed in this particular scenario. So there are certain hidden things like, for example, let's say when you attend the site visit, that particular notice is also been published in the website saying, but after the site visit, there may be another site visit which is arranged by another contractor. They wanted to see some. Then if you are giving a uniform opportunity to all of them, they will ask for a site visit. You may be missing that particular opportunity because you are of the opinion in your checklist, site visit is ticked, isn't it? Right? So e-tendering platform easily does not allow you to get rid of the situation. They definitely give you the correct path, right? Especially when you are submitting the tender, they do not allow you to submit the tender until and unless you provide a particular checklist. In my case study, that particular example is also there, right? Okay, and then that is about the platform that I was talking about. Instant access, right? Instant access is, you can see the registration folder that you can see here. Instant access is another attribute of the e-tendering system. If you are a tenderer or a bidder, you will be given with a particular user ID and a password, right? And if you are general public, without having to go into the system, you can easily see what are the tenders which has been awarded. I can show you that one as well, right? So you might be uh, profoundly surprised about that one. But it is not the case, because even the general public has got a right to know what is going on. Okay, if a government is corrupt, if a particular organization is corrupt, even a person in a general public can do the whistleblowing, uh, um, take an action against that one. So this is what which we can happen, right? You know that therefore it is open to the public. There is nothing to hide. Open tender, nobody is corrupt, so it is a good thing, right? So we have got 5 stakeholders in this particular process. One is called the tenderer or the bidder. Now, if you go to the SPD2 version, the standard bidding document 2, even though it is construed as a twin brother of the FIDIC 1999 version, you use the word bidder in place of the word tenderer. So that is why I use that particular word. And then the general public, yes, of course, they have some access to these things. Then the tender initiator, tender evaluator, and the tender approver. When I say tender opener is almost sometimes the tender evaluator can also do the opener's thing as well, right? So these are the people who can have access, instant access to this particular system by using their credentials, right? Then it comes about equality. This is one of the very favorite pictures of mine. As I have told you, in Oman, we have got excellent grade contractors, first grade contractors, second grade, based on their capital. Okay. If you are a contractor, based on your capital value, based on your wealth, you have been classed. Okay. You have been put into different classes in order for you to bid for a particular project, because certain employers, certain developers, they seek for excellent grade contractors. Some seek for excellent and below, let's say first grade, second grade. So when I was trying to find an acronym for this, it came up with the word crime. So I didn't want to use that word. Anyway, it is talking about equality is always related to the capital, revenue, intensity of the number of projects that you're doing, the manpower and the equipment. Now, what you're seeing on your right-hand side is known as equality, right? If you are a tenderer, suppose that you have been given a task to do a massive excavation using heavy machinery, right? You won't be able to do that one if you are a particular tenderer of a particular scale, isn't it? So if you give the equal grounds, right, you can see the small guy cannot see the cricket match, isn't it? So that means he is unable to fulfill the particular requirement of the tender. Equity is something very different. My friends from financial background, they know this equity, right? Equity is that you provide the people who deserve to get the equal opportunity, some sort of equal opportunity. But in the tendering process, equity is not in our dictionary, because you are not favoring anyone. You can see in the middle picture, you are favoring that particular tenderer, isn't it? To see the things. So in this particular scenario, we are not going to do that one. Therefore, equality is the right term that we need to be using. But you need to understand the proper class. You have to tier them. You have to class them in a way that you should not allow a tenderer who is unable to perform, right? Who is unable to perform a massive excavation with the equipment and manpower he or she is having. So how are we going to deprive that one? With the advent of the class in this scenario in the e-tendering process, it does not allow a fourth grade contractor to enter into a tender which is advertised for excellent grade or first grade. So it automatically eliminates. What I'm seeing here on my right hand side is the reality. Okay, the person who deserves is in a pit, and the person who does not deserve is in a very top position. I'm not going to talk about that. Then that. So this is a reality. Sometimes it is happening, right? Okay. Now then, coming back to the e-tendering web portal that we are using in Oman, right? As you can see here, actually for the next two sessions, we will be using these websites a lot in order for you to comprehend what exactly is contained within the e-tendering system. This is just a simple suggestion. How you select a tender grade? You can see when I'm circling here. In Oman, we have got an excellent grade contractor, first, second, third, and fourth. So there is sort of a screening process. When you see something, some tender advertisement in the newspaper, right? You might be thinking that you are suitable for this one. But here, it automatically shuts the doors down to you if you are not in the particular category. So that's a very important thing, because you need to be in this particular scenario. Grading the contractor, as I have told you, it's a very simple thing. It is grading based on the capital, right? So in Oman, if an excellent grade contractor is there, he should be having a capital of more than 250,000 Omani riyals, right? So if he's between 25,000 to 49,999, he's a third grade contractor. So what are the advantages in Oman context? The advantages are they are allowed to bid for any tenders, even for a contractor, tenderer of a lower grade. Suppose as opposed to 100,000 cubic meters, which is needed to be excavated, you need to excavate only 25,000. So the fourth grade contractor or a third grade contractor can easily do that. But an excellent grade contractor has got that privilege to enter into that tender as well. So that is one of the things. And then the recruitment of expatriate employees, since we are living in a country which the nationals are different. Actually, in Sri Lanka, this is not happening. The expatriate employees can easily be recruited, the maximum clearances for the um, uh, excellent grade contractors. So those are some of the advantages, right? And then this particular sheet will be once again discussed separately. This is about ensuring the compatibility of the tendering process. Don't worry about that. Once I share this particular slideshow, you will understand what exactly is meant by that one, right? Now we come into the case study. So I will slowly read that one. Even though we stipulate this for 1 hour, we can have it for about 1 hour of up to 15 minutes, something like that. So I checked with the organizers because they especially mentioned about having to give some sort of a background, to give some sort of a foundation pertaining to the e-tendering process, rather than quickly jumping into the practical aspects of that. Okay. So this is a case study which is revolving around the actual situation, which I will explain to you. Right. Mrs. PQR LLC, there is a company called PQR, is a second grade contractor. Right? When I'm saying second grade contractor, that means his capital is in the region of 50,000 to 99,000. Okay. Looking for a challenging opportunities in the market. They recently quoted for a project name, upgrading building management system in a hospital. Okay. So you know what exactly is meant by a building management system. And when it comes to a hospital, you know what are the requirements of that, right? The tenderer was popular on winning the tenders recently due to their attractive pricing strategy. So please pay attention to everything. Read between the lines. Okay? Then you will understand the full essence of what I'm going to teach you. You will get the real flavor of what I'm going to tell you, right? The contract was governed by FIDIC 1999 version, Red Book. Then you will get exactly the idea. This is designed by the employer, right? Workmanship by the contractor, isn't it? Then it says 5 different attributes. During the tender process, they, what do you mean by they? That is the contractor or the tenderer, encountered the following issues. Number 1, the estimator could not open one file within others folder. That means in the e-tendering platform, there was a folder which is named as others, which was an AutoCAD file which contained the current status of the 20 CCTV cameras installed within the building. Okay. Then, and the fact that the intrusion detection system needs to be replaced. He missed to note that. Bear that in mind. Okay. That means the estimator has missed one AutoCAD file within that one, right? In that particular AutoCAD file, there was something which is very important for the pricing of the tender. Then the general manager who had the access to the e-tendering portal, as I have told you, an organization normally get the credential. They get a username and a password in order to access the system, right? The GM who had the access to the e-tendering portal had to leave for an urgent meeting overseas 14 days before submitting the tender. He was stuck overseas due to a travel ban imposed by, let's say, the COVID-19 situation. On the date of submission, the general manager sent a text message to the estimation manager indicating the username and password of the access to the e-tendering web portal. Okay. Then the tenderer was in a rush. Pay attention to that word. The tenderer was in a rush and ticked every compliance box appeared within the e-tendering portal in view of submitting the tender. To the utter surprise of the tenderer, the tender price was 50% less than the other closest competitors of it. Even though it looks like a very straightforward type of case study, there is something embedded within that one. The real essence is, even though we have the technology, if you do not use it properly, you will be in trouble. We all are trying to become good contract administrators. But what if the other party is not a good contract administrator? Your efforts will be in vain. Okay? No matter how well you wanted to install a robust system to get the best out, because when you see the third line of this case study, it is very clear this tenderer is really into the market. The tenderer was popular on winning the tenders recently due to their attractive pricing strategy. That means they may have found ways and means in winning tenders with a lower price. What tenderer, which employer wouldn't want to employ a tenderer for a lower price, right? Now, coming back to the first attribute of this particular case study, the quantity surveyor or the estimator missed two things. One, you can see these are the inherent things of a building management system that you are normally using in a building, right? You can see on your right-hand side, the intrusion detection system was defective. And the digital video, the CCTV systems, there are certain replacements which needs to be done by that person. With the absence of that particular information, the estimator might have thought, okay, that I don't need to replace these things, right? That may be the reason the price has gone totally down, right? Then it says the estimator could not open the file within others' tender. The question which may come into you is, using the drawings within the others folders, is it an appropriate approach? Okay. Now, you know full well that when we are using a traditional system, we are using what is known as the 4-volume system, isn't it? The prime document, or we call it the front end, the specification, the drawings, and the bill of quantities, right? So when you are using another folder called others, perhaps you might be using something like you wanted to get a dilapidation survey done, right? Then you have a special requirement for that. You need to put the soil investigation report into that one. Okay, so some of the items may be as-built drawings you might be doing, because normally the tender drawings are meant for pricing, isn't it? Because the drawings say what to build, right? So unfortunately, the drawing which contained information which is required to be priced has been put in a different folder. So with the advent of this sort of a technology, if you are misusing that one, that is an error from the part of the person who is publishing the tender. So that would have been easily avoided, right? And then compatibility of the system with the files within the E-Tendering portal. Now, when I'm going to talk about the data security in my other classes and the contractual issues which may come across, one of the things, now I will just show that to you. Now, this particular sheet which is contained within RICS guidelines say, whenever you are talking about, pay attention to item number 5, okay? Agree the standard file format for exchanging text documents. If it is MS Word, it says state the version. This is the proper practice. This is the ideal practice. If you are using AutoCAD, state the version and plot files. If you are using Excel, state the version. So this is the ideal scenario. If you see that, if you read that particular e-tendering guidance note, you will understand what I am saying, right? So anyway, coming back to that one, maybe that particular file couldn't have been opened by that particular estimator within that one, right? And then it talks about the lack of record keeping, right? Normally, you know, a good quantity survey whenever he or she misses something, he notes it down, isn't it? So that is a human error, which the artificial intelligence part is not there within the e-tendering system to understand, to comprehend that human error. So please understand, e-tendering system is not an artificial intelligence system. So you need to have some sort of professionalism in order to take care of this situation. Now let us go back to the next item. It says the GM who had the access to the e-tendering portal had to leave to an urgent meeting overseas. As I have told you, this is something to deal with the delegation of power, right? Sometimes you being the CEO of the company, being the owner of the company, might want to have a proper control over the system. Then you know that exactly what needs to be done. But sometimes one thing the GM might have missed is e-tendering system has the facility to have remote access. So there is no harm. I mean, giving the password through a text message or a call is also a problem. Imagine that particular person who is receiving this particular text message is in a party and he left his phone, right? And he has gone to the washroom. Some of his friends know this particular password. That is something to do with the data security. So in fact, what the GM has done was wrong. Okay, that is why whenever you are leaving your computer, you are supposed to log out from the computer. I don't know how many of you are doing that, right? So otherwise your data can be easily stolen by someone. So GM had that bureaucracy. GM had that particular power to retain the password and the uh, uh, login username, but what he would have easily done is from the remote location with the facility which has been given by the e-tendering system, he would have easily logged into the system on a daily basis and passed on the information to the estimation manager. So this is not what exactly you are thinking. You might be thinking when the GM goes out of the country, right? It is mandatory for him to give these credentials to the estimation manager. It may not be. Sometimes it is good to have the duplication with two different people, but it should be a balance between the data security and the accessibility. So those things are human factors. So there is a sixth sense that you need to be cultivated when you are using the e-tendering system. Then it talks about the late actions, right? In the 11th hour, we all know in the traditional system also, a good contractor, a good tenderer will never ever give the price, put the price in the form of tender, or in our XBD version contract data, or form of tender, right? Letter of tender, the price. They normally do it at the 11th hour because there is a high chance that if there is some sort of a what do you call leaking of the internal information, right? Will go to another competitor. Therefore, the managements normally in a particular tender organization, they give the final price at the 11th hour so that it will be more secure. So, but however, due to these late actions, you know what exactly happened due to these late actions? Tenderer was in a rush and tick every compliance box appeared within the e-tendering portal in view of submitting the tender. It is like you are running the hurdles 110 meters and you break all the hurdles just for the purpose of reaching your destination, but your purpose has not been satisfied because you are disqualified. You know that if you are an athlete, you know that if you hit more than 3 or something like that, I'm not quite sure, right? You're disqualified, right? 1 or 2 is allowed if I'm not mistaken, right? So that is why the check boxes are there. Now, how many of you are reading a software license agreements when you are putting a tick into that one? We normally don't do that, isn't it? Right? But e-tendering system put things for a reason, right? So if you do not if you do not cultivate that habit of abiding by the rules of the e-tendering system, it will be garbage in, garbage out situation. It will be of utter vain if you are not properly using that particular system, right? So this is what is exactly about the sustainable approach to e-tendering system. there are a lot of things which is related to be done in this regard. And then we are coming to the final part of today's session. It's talking about the lessons learned, right? Now, this is what I wanted to share with you, right? Let me just park this Weaver panel somewhere which is feasible for me. What you're seeing on your top left-hand corner is the company participation status of a particular tender. You can see I have clouded some areas with blue color in order to protect the privacy of some companies, okay? But the tender title is Upgrading of Building Management System. This is the exact tender which I was talking about, right? So in this particular option, even a general public can understand there are 5 submissions, okay? And then when you are talking about these 5 submissions, you can see, right, easily you can see what you see here, that those 5 companies, right, have submitted. Everybody knows that these people have submitted. So even the tenderer who has participated in this particular tender, he knows that there are 5 people on the race, right? But when the tenders were opened, you can see on the down screen, the values are there. The third value is the value which was submitted by our leader today, okay? Our main role player, who has submitted for 29,958 Omani Riyals, as opposed to 62,000 and 63,000. So what you can understand here is, right, they have not granted this particular tender to the lowest tenderer, knowing full well it is an abnormally low tender. You know what an abnormally low tender is? That means it is well below the budget of the engineer's estimate. It is well below the budget of the expectations of the employer. So you need to understand that particular situation very clearly, what exactly is meant by that particular rate. So when you're talking about the lessons learned, right? Just give me a second. Just give me a second. Sorry about that. There was a small interruption. I just eliminated that one. Right. It's quite hot in Oman. Right. If you go into this particular scenario, wherein the lowest tenderer has not been selected, you have a lesson to be learned. What is the lesson that you can learn? Number one, you have done an omission for the repairs to CCTV cameras, and you have done an omission to replacement of the intrusion detection system. This is an actual case. Huh? This is a real life scenario. That is why I am putting it as a case study. Based on the lowest tenderer who has been selected, actually not the lowest, based on the lowest compatible tenderer. Okay, you can see that particular 62,000, the difference between 62,000 and 29,958 is 32,000. So that the lesson that can be learned by this tenderer who has underpriced this one is the actual repair cost of this particular CCTV cameras is and the intrusion detection system may be somewhere in the region of 22,000 to 32,000 to 33,000. So this is what he can learn in this one. Luckily, this would have been avoided if there are line items within the BOQ. You might have thought about that. Okay, if there are line items within the BOQ for the maintenance of 620 CCTV cameras, okay, because the BOQ can be uploaded into the e-tendering system. I'm going to teach you about that, the actual system within my next sessions, right? Unfortunately, this was some sort of a lump sum type of a price that they needed to put. Therefore, if the BOQ has not been itemized within the e-tendering system, once again, e-tendering system is not an artificial intelligence system to comprehend whether or not the contractor has incorporated prices for all the items. So this is what is all about the lessons learned. And the lessons learned guideline, which has been given by the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, talks about certain facts, right? I told one more thing about this particular situation. I hope you remember in this particular case study, I told you that 14 days before they realized that particular thing was there, right? That particular changes, if you are happening, if these changes are happening in this one. Now, if you are using the FIDIC 1999 version, there is a glitch that we have observed in this particular FIDIC 1999 version. Normally, the word unforeseeability, okay, that means unforeseeability has been defined in FIDIC 99 as the contractor needs to wrap up all the information by the date of submission of the data, right? But when it goes to the FIDIC 2017 version, it talks about the contractor has to wrap up everything by the base date, which is 28 days before the tender submission date. Therefore, you need to understand that particular aspect as well, which has now been corrected in FIDIC 2017 flavor, because there is a meaning for the base date. Okay. In the e-tendering system also, this base date scenario is there. E-tendering system does not allow, even by a mistake, for the employer to upload any alteration 28 days prior to the tender submission date. Okay, so that is a good thing, right? Because FIDIC 1999 version erroneously put this as the closing date as the date of submission of the data, but it is not the correct scenario. Otherwise, the proper essence, the proper validity, the proper meaning of the base date is foregone. That is what I have to tell you. So I asked for additional 15 minutes. I think I exactly achieved that one. I'm happy about the timing which has been achieved here. It is exactly 1 hour and uh, uh, 15 minutes. The lessons learned log, we are going to talk about it separately in a different session, right? There are a lot of things that we need to points to ponder, right? This is not the time for me to, I put it as an additional slide so that you can go through it, because I'm going to share the documents which I have mentioned to you. One is the e-tendering guideline. The other one is the lessons learned guideline, which is freely available in Google. When you put the particular name with the name RICS, you will get it, right? And then those two websites. So if you are attending the second session, my humble request for you to go through that one, for you to read that one and comprehend the content of that. So it will be easy for you to follow up, right? And that is it about today's session. And thank you. If you are having any questions, you can ask me now, right? Over to you, Pumi.
Thank you very much, Engineer Priyanka, for elaborating such a modern and essential topic in a very understandable manner. And you clearly explain us how easy to handle this process rather than handling a bulk manual documentations. Actually, before stepping up into the Q&A session, I would like to invite the audience again. If you have any question, please place into the chat box. And our host will send you a feedback form to the chat box again. And please complete it and submit it before ending the session. Okay, as we saw that a few questions were put forward by the audience. Engineer Priyanka, we are pleased if you can kindly address them one by one.
Yeah. Number one, the first question is why Sri Lanka should implement e-tendering? Are we ready for it? That is the first question. Right, that is what I wanted to tell you. By looking at the number of e-tenders which has been published in the website, let me just show it to you, the website itself, right? The exact website, I will show it to you now. All of you can see it. Pumi, I think you can see it as well, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Now, see, if you go to this particular website, right? His question is very valid. I'm not saying it is not an invalid question or something like that. Why Sri Lanka should go for e-tendering system, right? Number one is because of the advantages which I have explained to you, right? The serene concept, right? It will save a lot of your time as well as money. One of the simple scenarios is you never wanted to have an arithmetic correction process. So why do you want to go for that sort of a scenario, right? And then if you want to produce, suppose that you are an employer, you wanted to produce ample amount of documents pertaining to a tender document. You know that it's a very tedious task. So rather than doing that one, you can simply upload whatever the things. When you have the know-how, it will be very easy. And the other thing is the tenderers will not be able to alter anything in this particular system. So that is a very simple answer. But if you attend the next few sessions also, you will understand a lot of positive thoughts about this one as well, right? And then the second question, can we use e-tendering for measure and pay contract? Okay. What you know as measure and pay contract are the remeasurable contracts, I think, in the FIDI credit book that we are normally using, right? Now, the Oman e-tendering web portal has now been developed to the post-tendering process as well, right? So now, this is for tenders only, right? Therefore, you can't call it as e-tendering. But what I can tell you is, let me revert this particular thing. You can say, now it is opening up another era, opening up another avenue, because you already have that particular BOQ within the within the common forum, right? You are already using electronic document management systems such as AACQS and then Procurement, whatever it is, right? So something like that, if you have a common platform which can be shared by the contractor and the consultant in view of doing the remeasurement, you have the BOQ, you have the rates, nobody can alter them. So it will be a very vital, very useful, downloadable platform. But they are still studying on that one. To the best of my knowledge, even in Oman, they are not using it for the post-contract purposes, right? And the third question, how the bidder refer to the drawings and specification before bid submission? Can they download and refer? Yes, 100%. They can download and refer. Now, even this extranet system, which I have explained to you in this PDO, Petroleum Development of Oman, even before the advent of the e-tendering system, they use that one. So the downloading can be done, right? And then there is an electronic validation system. Otherwise, you will be asked, how can you ensure that the contractor has referred to the same thing? Electronic validation system is there. You don't need to print them. Okay, you don't need to print them. You can validate it by using like the e-signature system to verify that you have already referred to that one, which will form part of the contract document. Then the fourth question. Please explain how to evaluate two-stage tender. In fact, a two-stage tender is something like that. You have got early involvement in the contractor, right? First, you based on certain parameters, you give the letter of acceptance to that particular contractor, and then you grow with that particular contractor, right? So in that particular case, the e-tendering system is not equipped with that sort of a thing, but you can cater it for that particular scenario as well. I'm sure that they are doing research on that. Then it asks about, sir, what are the visible and invisible disadvantages of e-tendering? Yes, there are downsides of e-tendering as well, right? Now, regarding data security, I'm not saying it is that one. Most of the downsides of e-tendering system is associated with the lack of knowledge by the stakeholders, right? That is number one. And the number two is about the lack of organizing the items or the data within the e-tendering framework, right? So sometimes there may be certain things which may be errors, but there are very less errors that I have to tell you because they are doing research most of the time. One of the things that they have observed, I'll tell you one very typical example. In a traditional bill of quantity format, you know that you are stacking the details in a vertical format, isn't it? When you're talking about concrete work, and then you have a preamble note, then you have the type of concrete, one by one down. But in the e-tendering system, they never allow you to upload an Excel sheet like that. They allow you to upload an Excel sheet in one single record, like what you are seeing in a SESAM 3, SMM 7, codified method. Okay. So all the descriptions, even the preamble note, now that is one of the disadvantages. If you are a user of Principles of Measurement International, which was issued by Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors in 1979. POMI is a very simple document, 31-page document. Based on POMI, when you do the BOQ compilation, it is stacked vertically, isn't it? So if you wanted to put it in the E-Tendering website, you need to repeat the same heading in that particular record. So that is a waste. You know that is why they opt for their own system. They are more towards prone towards NRM2, which is widely being used in the UK context as well, which is a codified method. So codified standard methods of measurements are more user friendly for this sort of a thing. And then please explain BOQ preparation for this purpose perfectly to the point. Within my next session, I will definitely be explaining you how we are going to do that, right? And then how the bidder address any queries to solve. Are there any platform? Yes, of course, the bidder can have access to that one. Now, with my current employment, I am not a owner of a particular thing. Actually, I cannot show that to you due to security reasons as well, right? But however, I will show you some screens next time, right? Which may allow you to comprehend what exactly is the way that the queries can be raised. It is very easy. Nobody else will be seeing that one. You can easily post a query within the system itself, right? And then these days, internet connections are always interrupted. If that happens when submitting the bid, what can we do? A very typical example, that is one of the case studies which I'm planning to do with the next one, because I can see that you are very enthusiastic about that, and I'm really grateful. I mean, I did not expect this sort of questions. It's very good, right? I'm very happy about that you are paying attention to this. So what I can say in a simple terms, right, regarding internet connections, connectivity, normally that is why 24/7 you are allowed to contact this stakeholder, right? Who is the service provider. So when you are having the service provider, if there is a genuine reason, because they can trace you, they can trace whether you have made a genuine attempt to upload the documents. They will immediately know that there's a any desk access. Any desk is a very powerful tool which is being used. That means whatever the contents which I am having in this computer can be controlled by someone else, isn't it? Right? So any desk access can be given, right? For the purpose of uploading only, then the tenderer has to be very much careful. His sensitive information, such as how he developed the labor rate, should not be within the desktop. Okay, so you need to exclusively use a laptop which does not contain any other information when you're providing any desk access. That is something to do with the data security. So that service provider will help you. Even though the time has been passed, there are provisions in the electronic transaction law wherein there is an interruption. You can upload it within a stipulated time frame. Can someone read the bid before he decide to submit the bid? Can someone read the bid before he decide to submit the bid? That is not quite clear to me. I don't know whether that particular gentleman, if you can raise your voice now, if you can elaborate a little bit, I will explain it to you. Is the raise hand option is there, you mean?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Right. Please check with that particular gentleman or the lady who asked the question about can someone read the bid before he decide to submit the bid. He's not quite understood. He can re-ask the question. That's not an issue. Then I move on to the next one.
Okay.
How can we evaluate the tender via the e-tender process? Evaluate the tender via the e-tender process. It's a very nice one. That is why we have an allocated person called tender evaluator. I will be showing you some screens within the next couple of sessions. Okay, there's a tender evaluation criteria. You can easily do that one. You don't have to use Excel at all. Okay, within the e-tendering system itself, the very comprehensive line by line uh, benchmarking or evaluation process is there. That What is the legal consideration of e-tendering in government public sector? You might have seen, I'm going to talk about that within the next few sessions. So I don't want to duplicate the same thing. Please do attend the next sessions. I will let you know what are the legal implications of that, right? After submitting, can a bidder get a copy of what he has submitted? Exactly, 100%. He can have a PDF copy of what exactly he has submitted. How we organize the pre-bid meeting and site visit? That is also through the e-tendering system. The pre-bid meeting is and the site visit goes through an addendum. That whenever this particular addendum has been posted by the employer, it will trigger an email to all the tenderers and they will get the message. So they don't have to worry about addressing all these people. Now imagine that you have got 20 odd tenderers, right? Normally what you are doing is to all tenderers, you send an email, that's fine. But sometimes you send it in a hard copy. Some employers prefer hard copy. Here it is not like that. You upload the document, you don't have to write a letter also. And then you can arrange that, okay? So as you mentioned, the bidders cannot make any qualification in e-tender. If so, how can the bidder address this? That's a very, very important question. That is why a sufficient tender period is there, right? And that is why the FIDIC 2017 version very correctly mentioned about unforeseeability. Now, I will have to tell you something about what is given in the SBD 2. Standard bidding document 2 defines the word unforeseeable as not reasonably foreseen by an experienced contractor, but it does not give a time frame. Okay, so that is not, I may not say it is incorrect or something like that. I don't have the authority to say that one, but it can be improved. That is what I can tell you. Then normally within the tender, what do you call instructions to tenderers, better you put 28 days. Once again, I am telling you, you have got 28 days of a blackout period in order to price the tender, right? There won't be any information passed by the employer. Now, in the meantime, if you find any sort of a qualification, right? I know the tenderers are not perfect, right? Sometimes in the covering letter that you upload, you may put certain items, but it does not promote this particular criteria, this idea, because it is meant to be the tenderer's duty, the tenderer's duty to do the clarifications, get the clarifications. But once again, I'm telling you, none of the tenders are robust. Therefore, you cannot say the contract, the employer's documents are perfect. Therefore, the contractor's right has been preserved by the legal concept called the contra preferendum principle. You might have heard about that. That means if there is any error in the tender document where the tenderer was not able to give a qualification, based on the contra preferendum principle, it will be judged against the drafter. It will be judged in favor of the contractor. So that is the answer, right? Then can someone read the bid before submitting? Okay, he's asking the same thing. Okay, right. What I understand is something like before submitting, read the bid. No, they cannot, right? I understand what you're saying. That maybe you might have thought something like this. Now, when you're uploading the document, actually there is no requirement for you to upload the POQ. Now in the current system, you have to enter online, right? When you're entering the online, nobody can read that one. It is encrypted. That is the particular word that we are using. No, nobody can see that one. Even after submission, nobody can see that one. There is authorized people only. You can see. In a two envelope system, definitely nobody can see the price, right? It is only the tender bond they can see. When based on the tender bond, you can see the price, but the itemized pricing cannot be seen, right? With regard to the tender submission, since it is a digital platform, are bid security still applicable? It's a very vital question. I'm talking about that once again separately. Yes, bid security is entitled. There is only one glitch, the service provider. Okay, we have come across that particular question. Service provider should not be having, because it's very difficult thing. You cannot say like that now. Service provider has to sign a non-disclosure agreement whenever he or she is providing that sort of a service which I have explained to you. Okay, so that is the only glitch which I see. Otherwise, if you are not giving your, like in my case study, if you give through a text or through an email a password, definitely somebody can hack it. Okay, then can we use e-tendering for projects less than 100 million LKR in cell? Do you think it is practical? Yeah, it's another good question because it is like pretty short form. Honestly, 100 million LKR, I'm not quite sure about these boundaries which is given in the Sri Lankan system, right? That you need to see the electronic transaction law in the Sri Lanka. Maybe when you go through that one, you will understand. Is it practical? Yes, it is practical. Even for supply only items, it is already there. So that's why I'm telling you, e-tendering system is not expensive. Please understand that one. It is not an expensive system. Paying 2,500 per month is not an expensive thing, right? And for the stakeholders, even for the employers also, that is not a big issue, right? Can anyone read others' bid documents? Very typical question. Or if there are any security process? Yes, there is a security process. I will explain to you within my next session. How to deal with conflict of interest? A very good question. Conflict of interest may arise due to three reasons, right? One is called the party interest. The other one is called the pawn interest conflict. The other one is called the confidential information conflict. When it comes to the e-tendering, it is the confidential information conflict which is coming into play. So please allow me, because this professional ethics is one of my pet subjects, please allow me to elaborate in a different session because I'm taking these into account, right? In a very comprehensive manner, nicely presented in a slide so that you will exactly understand how the confidential information conflict can be eliminated within the e-tendering system. Okay, quite a substantial number. I'm really happy, really impressed by the enthusiasm shown by the participant. You added color to my today's lecture as well. Thank you so much. Yes, over to you, Bhumi.
Thank you, Engineer Priyanka. I think that's all the questions raised by the audience. Very few questions. I think that much the context has been clear to the audience. And again, thank you very much for sorting out the gray areas raised by the audience. And this is a kind reminder to the gathering again. If you are willing to obtain a certificate for the CPD, please complete the Google form which is in the chat box and submit it. If you are not given the details, that you will not receive a certificate. And I would like to open up the event for the audience again for asking the questions if you have any directly from our speaker. And please raise your hand, then our host will unmute you and allow you to ask the questions. And please stick to the subject matter when you're asking the questions. Seems like no questions raised by the audience. Okay, then thank you very much, those who asked the questions and clear our minds. And as the AACQS, we would like to convey our sincere gratitude to Engineer Priyanka Karunarathna for the knowledge sharing on e-tendering. And we are so excited to take a delivery from your valuable knowledge in the upcoming second and third CPDs as well. Thank you very much again, Engineer Priyanka Karunarathna, for being the speaker of today.
Okay. Wish you all a good evening, and then let's meet on the very quick succession. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you again. Then finally, we are admiring your dedication of participating to the session. That is a very honor to us. And so I would like to thank all of the participants on behalf of the Alumni Association of College of Quantity Surveying. Let's meet in the second and third CPD sessions. Thank you very much. Good night.